Found my sister's diary. She died in 1997. The last entry was dated yesterday. Ava hadn't set foot in her childhood home in over a decade. The old farmhouse sat on 10 acres of land just outside Marlow, Oregon. Remote, quiet, forgotten, much like the memories she'd buried and the people she'd lost. She never intended to return, but after her mother passed last month and the property legally transferred to her, Ava had no choice. There were documents to sign, utilities to shut down, and the daunting task of sorting through 3 generations of family belongings. A job she figured would take a few weekends at most. What she hadn't expected was Emma, her older sister, her best friend, her ghost. Emma died in 1997, a story no one in the family liked to tell, one that had shifted shapes over the years, from tragic accident to whispered rumors of something darker. She'd been 13, bright, beautiful, and then gone, just like that. They found her in the attic, no sign of struggle, no explanation, her face frozen in a half-smile that made the coroner uncomfortable enough to mention it twice in the report. For years afterward, the attic was nailed shut, first by their father, then again by their mother after his death. Now, standing beneath the trapdoor with a crowbar in hand, Ava felt the weight of history pressing down on her chest. The attic door creaked open like a long-forgotten crypt. A soft groan echoed from above, like the house itself had taken a breath it hadn't drawn in decades. She climbed the steps slowly, flashlight in hand. The bulb at the top of the crawlspace flickered as she reached it, casting long, uncertain shadows across the low rafters. Her breath turned visible in the beam of light. She paused. It was June. Why was it so cold? The air in the attic smelled of dust and something else, a sickly sweetness that reminded her of funeral homes, lilacs maybe, or something that had once been lilacs and now just lingered. Forward, pushing aside old tarps and boxes marked with faded dates and peeling tape. That's when she saw it. Tucked behind a broken mirror and an old rocking horse was a small wooden chest. Carved into the lid were the initials E.M. Emma. May. Her knees went weak. She hadn't seen that chest since she was 8. Emma used to keep her drawings in it, little folded poems, notes written in glitter pen. She'd even let Ava add her own sometimes, as long as they were magical enough. Her hands trembled as she reached for it. The latch stuck for a moment, then gave with a loud snap. The chest opened slowly, like it had been waiting. Inside were a few faded Polaroids, a dried-out perfume bottle, and something wrapped in a cloth napkin. She unfolded it carefully and gasped. Emma's diary, a thick, leather-bound journal with a clasp that had long since rusted apart. Ava recognized the stickers on the front, little stars and hearts, peeling at the corners. Her sister had been obsessed with astrology, said the stars were maps for lost people. She hesitated, then flipped to the last page. The ink was dark, fresh, and unmistakably Emma's handwriting. June 18th, 2025. He found me again. I tried to run. I don't think he likes you being here. Ava's blood ran cold. Her flashlight flickered once, twice, then died. Pitch black swallowed the room. She reached for her phone, fumbling for the screen. It turned on, then off, then back on, blindingly bright white. No icons, no time, just light. A faint whisper grazed her ear, a sound so soft and slippery it felt like wind with a voice. Emma's not finished yet. Ava spun around, heart pounding. Nothing but then a creak, followed by another. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, dragging something heavy. She wasn't alone. The attic had one way in and one way out. The trapdoor she'd climbed up. She turned toward it, but the entrance was gone. Or rather, blacked out, like someone had pulled a curtain of night over it. The flashlight wouldn't turn on again. Her phone had gone cold in her hand. She dropped the diary and scrambled backward, breathing fast and shallow. Another whisper. This time closer. You opened her grave. Ava clutched her phone and used the dim camera light to scan the space. That's when she saw it. Near the back wall, where the insulation had rotted away, was a hole. It hadn't been there before, not when she was a child, not even moments ago. The drywall was peeled back like paper. Inside the wall cavity was a small, padded space, and in that space, a makeshift bed, blankets, a flashlight, a box of old crackers, and dozens of small drawings, stars, spirals, eyes with no pupils, and, in the center, nailed to the wooden beam, a photo of Ava, a recent one, From her Instagram, she stumbled back, heart hammering in her throat. The air around her felt charged, like static before a storm. What the hell was this? Suddenly, a loud crack split the silence. The wooden beam near the photo snapped in two, and the floor beneath Ava's feet shifted. She dropped hard, hitting the boards with a grunt. The diary slid across the attic floor and stopped near the hidden bed. The pages fluttered open. Words appeared on the paper, right in front of her eyes. Ink rising like smoke. Don't go downstairs. He waits by the stairs. Ava stared, frozen. Then, she heard it again, the footsteps. This time, climbing up. Whoever, whatever was downstairs had heard her. She backed into a corner, every nerve in her body screaming to run. But where? And then, something moved in the far corner of the attic. A shadow, long and crooked, human-shaped, but bent wrong. Too tall arms too thin. No face, just a smooth stretch of pale skin. It whispered her name. Not Ava but Emma. Emma, come home, come back. Ava tried to scream, but no sound came. The thing stepped closer. Its feet didn't make noise anymore. They hovered, dragging shadows behind them. Suddenly, her phone lit up again, bright as a flare. The creature reeled back, hissing like steam. Ava didn't think. She grabbed the diary, shoved it into her coat, and ran. Somehow, the trapdoor was visible again. She dove through, falling halfway down the attic steps, landing hard on the hallway floor below. She slammed the attic shut behind her. Then everything went silent. The house breathed, for real this time. Walls expanding, wood settling, or maybe shuddering. Ava sat there, shaking, her hands scraped and bleeding from the fall. She looked at the diary. The cover was warm, like it had absorbed something alive. She flipped to the first page. There was no date dot, just 5 words scrawled in jagged ink. He took my name away. She didn't sleep that night. She stayed on the front porch with the diary in her lap and her car keys in her hand, listening to the sounds of the house, creaking floors, faint crying, and once, just once, her sister's voice, whispering from the window above, "Don't let him find me again." She died in the attic, but something else stayed behind. Ava didn't leave the house that night, though every part of her told her she should. Her car sat in the driveway, keys clenched tight in her palm, and yet she couldn't force herself to start the engine. It was as if the house itself had a hold on her, not physically, but something deeper, something rooted in memory and grief. The sun crept up slowly, turning the thick June fog into gold. Birds called out across the trees. A new day, trying to pretend the night hadn't happened. But Ava remembered. She remembered the attic, the whispers, the diary, and she remembered the thing without a face that called her Emma. By mid-morning, she forced herself back inside, cautiously. The house looked normal again. Dusty, worn down, but normal. Sunlight streamed through the front windows, glinting off picture frames and glass cabinets. The silence had softened. For a moment, Ava let herself believe it had all been some fever dream, that maybe she'd inhaled too much attic dust or hit her head, until she looked at the kitchen table. There, sitting neatly in the center, was the diary. She had left it outside. She was sure of it. She had clutched it in her lap for hours, on the porch, then placed it on the porch steps, when she finally went inside. Now it was back, as if it had never left, and it was open. The ink was still fresh. "You left me again." I followed. Ava backed away. She didn't scream, not this time. She was past the point of shock. Whatever this was, it wasn't a prank. It wasn't grief. It wasn't stress. Something was alive in this house. Something wearing Emma's skin. Ava called her cousin Tyler. He was the only one in the family who still talked about Emma. Everyone else treated her death like a taboo, the kind of wound you walk around, never directly. Tyler had been 15 when it happened. He'd seen something that night, something he never explained fully, only ever hinted at in late-night drunk conversations when the guilt rose up too fast. Now, Ava needed answers. Tyler arrived 2 hours later, his old truck rattling up the gravel path. He was older now, bearded, bulkier, but his eyes were still sharp. He stepped out and looked up at the house like it might bite him. "Didn't think I'd see this place again," he muttered. Ava didn't wait. She led him inside, straight to the kitchen, and handed him the diary. He flipped through the pages. Slowly, his fingers trembled slightly when he reached the latest entry. "He's not dead. He never was." He closed the book. "Jesus Christ," he whispered. I thought she made him up. Ava's skin prickled. Who? Tyler looked at her, and for the first time in her life, she saw fear in his face. We used to sneak up into the attic sometimes, he said, when your parents weren't home. Emma called it her sky room. She said she could hear the stars better from up there. He paused. But then one day, she started saying weird things. That there was a man living in the walls. She called him Mr. Still. Said he never blinked. Said he liked to watch her sleep. Ava's throat went dry. He thought she was lying. Tyler shook his head. I thought she was imagining things, like an imaginary friend, but darker. She'd draw him over and over, always tall, always faceless, like a silhouette. She said he lived between the seconds, in the silence, when the clock ticks. Ava suddenly remembered the drawings in the attic, the spiral eyes, the empty faces. She wrote about him in this diary. She said, just yesterday. Tyler frowned. But Emma's been dead for almost 30 years. I know, she whispered. They decided to go back to the attic. Tyler held a flashlight. Ava carried the diary, now wrapped in a kitchen towel. Neither spoke as they climbed the creaking stairs and pulled down the trapdoor. The attic was exactly as she'd left it, at least at first. Then they saw the back wall. The hidden hole had widened. What had once been a small crawl space was now a tunnel. Long, dark, lined with crumbling insulation and nails sticking out like broken teeth. The photo of Ava was gone. In its place, nailed to the beam, was a photograph of Tyler. He stared at it, in silence. I never sent that picture to anyone, he said. That was taken last year, in my living room. Ava felt the cold again, worse this time, biting it wrapped around her spine and pressed against the base of her skull. Tyler moved toward the tunnel. No, Ava grabbed his arm. Don't go in there. But he was already shining his light down the corridor. There were marks along the walls, scratches, clawing hands, symbols that Ava couldn't read, but instinctively feared. Then the whisper returned, low, guttural, not from inside the tunnel, but behind them. He remembers you. They spun around. At the far end of the attic, something shifted in the darkness. A shape, almost human, but impossibly tall. Its limbs hung like ropes. No face, no features, just a black, pulsing void. Tyler aimed the flashlight at it. The beam sputtered and died instantly. The air turned electric dot. Then the diary in Ava's hands snapped open. Pages flew like wings. Words scrawled themselves faster than she could read. She caught only fragments. He watches from the quiet. He ate our names. The attic isn't the end. Then the diary burst into flame. Ava screamed and dropped it. The towel ignited too. Tyler stomped on it, trying to smother the fire, but the flames wouldn't die. They burned cold blue and silent dot. Then, just as suddenly, the fire vanished. The diary remained untouched. No scorch marks, no damage, only one new sentence on the open page. He's downstairs now. They didn't wait. They ran back in the kitchen. Tyler slammed the back door shut and locked it, chest heaving. Okay, he said, trying to steady his voice. We need to go. This place isn't haunted. It's hunted. Ava sat at the table, clutching the diary, staring into space. Her voice was hollow. I think Emma's still in there, somewhere, trapped. Tyler looked at her. She's dead, Ava. No, she said, eyes wide. I think that's what he wants us to believe. I think she never left because he wouldn't let her. That's why she keeps writing. That's why she warned me. Tyler didn't respond, but something inside the walls knocked. Once, twice, 3 times, a rhythm. Then silence. Ava stood slowly. What are you doing? Tyler asked. She didn't answer. She just walked to the hallway closet, the one beneath the attic stairs. It was locked. Had been for years. She found the old brass key in her father's desk drawer and slid it into the lock. The door creaked open. Darkness spilled out. A smell like mildew and copper flooded her nose. Inside was another staircase, narrow and steep, leading downward, far deeper than the house should allow. This wasn't here before, she whispered. Tyler looked over her shoulder, shaking his head. No way. But the staircase waited. Each step was marked with carvings, symbols again, stars, moons, and eyes. Always eyes. At the bottom was only shadow. The diary pulsed in Ava's hand. Then a page turned on its own. This is where he keeps the names. Ava looked at Tyler. We have to go down there. Tyler's face was pale. That's suicide. But Ava was already stepping down. She didn't know what she expected to find at the bottom. A crypt, a memory, a hell. But what she did find was Emma. He doesn't keep the dead, he keeps what's left. Ava never remembered stepping onto the last stair. One moment, the wooden steps creaked beneath her feet. The next, they vanished, and she was standing in a space that shouldn't exist. No walls, no floor, just endless black, thick and shifting, like a dark fog pressing in from every angle. Behind her, the staircase was gone. Ahead of her, silence, but something in the dark was breathing. "Tyler," she whispered, but her voice barely carried. Then, a click, a match flared to life, illuminating a tiny face just inches away from her own. Emma, but not as Ava remembered her. This Emma was pale, her skin almost translucent, eyes sunken but impossibly deep. Her long brown hair was soaked in something dark, ink, blood, shadow. Ava couldn't tell. The child stared at her, flame flickering across her too still face. "You shouldn't be here," Emma said softly. Ava's breath caught. "Emma, is it really you?" "I don't know anymore," the child replied. The match went out, and suddenly, they were somewhere else. The space morphed around Ava like a dream shifting mid-sleep. Now she was in a long, narrow hallway, lined with dozens, maybe hundreds of doors. Each one had a name carved into it. Some she recognized, some she didn't. Her fingers brushed one, Samantha Elroy, another, Jonas Locke. "Who are these people?" she whispered. Emma stood beside her now, a little older, her voice deeper. "They came here, just like you. He kept pieces of them, memories, echoes." Ava turned. "Why?" Emma looked down. "Because that's what he eats." Ava swallowed hard. "What do you mean?" Emma didn't answer. Instead, she walked to a door at the far end. It had Emma Hall carved into it, followed by a second name burned beneath. "Ava Hall in progress." Ava stumbled backward. No, I'm alive." Emma looked up at her, eyes sad. "You're almost not." Then the door opened on its own. Inside was a room of memories. It looked like their childhood bedroom. The twin beds, the posters, the old nightlight that projected stars on the ceiling. But the air was wrong. Everything flickered, like watching a home video through static. Sounds echoed in a delay. And on the bed, a little girl lay motionless, her back turned. "Emma." Ava stepped closer, but the figure didn't move. The nightlight flickered. The stars on the ceiling shifted. They began forming shapes, eyes, always watching. Some blinked, some bled. Then the girl sat up slowly. It wasn't Emma. Her face was hollow, black where the eyes should be, mouth stretched into a permanent, silent scream. It lunged forward, and the entire room shattered like glass. Ava fell again. This time, when she opened her eyes, she was back in the real house, or at least, something like it. She was in the living room, but everything was decayed. Mold crept along the walls. The furniture was covered in sheets, gray with age. The air buzzed with static. Across from her stood Tyler, but his eyes were empty. Black liquid dripped from his mouth. A voice echoed from inside him, but it wasn't his voice. "You brought her here." The last piece. Ava's heart pounded. "What did you do to him?" The thing wearing Tyler tilted its head. "He remembers." "That's enough. I only need the memory." It took a step toward her. The lights in the house dimmed. "I don't understand," Ava cried. "Why me? Why Emma?" "Because you watched her die," the thing said. Ava froze. I didn't." But then the memories came back. Not like a sudden flash, but like puzzle pieces clicking into place. The attic, a fight, screaming, Emma slipping, a crack. She remembered Emma lying at the bottom of the attic stairs, blood pooling. Ava standing above her, frozen. She hadn't told anyone. She'd said Emma fell, an accident. And for years she'd believed it. But the truth was uglier. Emma had been afraid. She'd told Ava not to go into the attic, that he would follow, but Ava hadn't listened. She'd gone anyway, and he had come. Now he wanted both of them. The house began to fold in on itself. The windows cracked. The walls bled ink. The floorboards moaned like dying animals. Ava ran. She didn't know where to, just away. Through the hallway, past the rooms, down the stairs, until she found the basement door. She hesitated, then opened it. Inside, it wasn't a basement. It was a mirror. Not a reflective one, but a room that mirrored her worst moments. Scenes from her life played on the walls in flickers. Her screaming at Emma, her lying to her parents, the guilt, the years of forgetting. Then, in the center of the room, stood Emma, full grown now, face calm. "You left me there," she said. Ava's voice cracked. I didn't mean to. I didn't know. Yes, you did, Emma said gently. But it wasn't your fault. Not all of it. He used me. Emma nodded. He feeds on regret. He made you forget, Ava, because it made your guilt more powerful when you remembered. Ava fell to her knees. How do I stop him? Emma stepped closer. You already are. The walls trembled. Something in the dark roared. Emma turned to the room and held up the diary, now glowing with pale blue light. You finished my story, she said softly. Now I can finish his. Ava watched as Emma stepped into the center of the room and tore out the final page. The walls cracked. A deep, inhuman voice screamed, and the house collapsed. Ava woke on the front lawn, coughing. The house behind her was gone. Not in ruins. Not burned. Just gone. Only the stone steps remained, moss-covered and broken. Tyler lay beside her, unconscious but breathing. His eyes fluttered open. What happened? He mumbled. Ava didn't answer. She looked down at her hands. In her lap was the diary. It was empty now. No ink, no words, just blank pages, and in the very center, where the pages met, a single photo. Her and Emma, smiling, before everything. As she held it, a breeze passed by, and for a moment, Ava swore she heard her sister's voice in the wind. Thank you for remembering me. Some things return when you remember them. Ava didn't go back to her apartment that night. She and Tyler drove in silence, the highway stretching endlessly beneath them like a ribbon of ash. Neither spoke, not about the house, not about Emma, not about what they'd seen. Some horrors cling too closely to words, and saying them aloud only invites them back. They checked into a motel an hour outside of town, a cheap, roadside place, with flickering neon lights and a front desk that smelled of old coffee and plastic plants. The woman behind the counter didn't ask questions. She slid them a key. Room 9. Tyler collapsed on the bed the second they entered, fully clothed. He was out cold in seconds. But Ava sat up, still. Clutching the diary. Its pages had remained blank since the house disappeared, but somehow it felt heavier, as if the memories within it were still alive, compressed, waiting. Her hands trembled as she opened it, half expecting something to leap from the paper. Nothing, just blank white. Until, suddenly, the corner of one page curled on its own, then another, and then words began to appear, written in the same looping, childlike handwriting Emma used. He isn't done, Ava. He's only shifted. You carried him out. Ava dropped the book. The motel lights buzzed louder than before. She looked up at the overhead bulb and watched as it flickered rhythmically, like it was breathing. The air in the room turned heavy, thick, like being underwater. She stood slowly, crossing to the bathroom, trying to clear her head. But when she flipped on the light, the mirror was covered in condensation, and in the fog, words were scrawled. Room 9, just like before. Ava stumbled back, heart slamming in her chest. No, she whispered. That's not possible. And yet, something was familiar. The carpet pattern, the scratch on the headboard, the chipped tile in the bathroom floor. Her legs nearly gave out as it clicked. This was the same room her family had stayed in years. The summer before Emma died. A last-minute road trip, a storm, a power outage. They'd found this exact motel, stayed the night. Emma had been 6, Ava 10. She remembered Emma crying in the bathroom, saying she saw someone in the mirror. Her parents had laughed it off, but Ava hadn't, because that night, she'd seen something too, a figure in the window, watching them sleep. She thought it was a dream. She thought she'd forgotten, but she remembered now. Outside, the air turned sour. Ava stepped into the night. The motel parking lot bathed in orange glow. The air buzzed with insects. Wind rustled. The nearby cornfield endless rose, swaying like breathing things. She heard it before she saw it. Laughter hippity, echoing, distant. Childlike. Then came the crunch of gravel. Ava turned. A little girl stood at the edge of the parking lot, her back turned, hair long and matted, feet bare, a white nightgown stained at the hem. Emma. Ava's voice cracked. The girl didn't move, but Ava felt something bloom behind her eyes, a sharp, pressing ache, like memory being forced through a hole too small. And then she remembered again. Not the attic, not the fall, but the motel. That night, Emma had vanished for 3 minutes. Just 3. Their mother had gone to grab towels. Their father was in the shower. Emma had slipped outside. When they found her, she was standing in the cornfield, motionless, staring into the dark. She never said where she'd gone, just cried for hours. Ava's knees buckled. Oh God. The girl in the parking lot turned around. It wasn't Emma. It wore her face, but stretched, mismatched, as if someone had painted it on too loosely. Its eyes were black voids, mouth too wide, and it began to walk slow, dragging footsteps toward her. Ava backed up. No, 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 no. She ran inside, slamming the door. Tyler woke to the sound of her gasping. Ava. He sat up, groggy. What happened? She turned to him, face pale. He's not gone. He blinked. What are you talking about? Ava held up the diary. He's here. He followed us. Or we brought him. I don't know anymore. Tyler rubbed his face. Ava, we left that place. You saw it. It was gone. That doesn't mean he's gone, she snapped. He's not a place, Tyler. He's a memory. He attaches to people, to moments, to guilt. The lights flickered again, and the radio on the nightstand, which hadn't been turned on, hissed to life. A child's voice whispered through the static. You forgot me again. Ava screamed and yanked the plug, but the whispering continued. Now from the sink drain, the TV speakers, the air vent, every corner of the room was whispering Emma's name. Tyler turned white. What the hell is happening? The walls began to pulse. The wallpaper peeled away in long strips. The carpet writhed beneath their feet, and then the bathroom door creaked open. Inside was the mirror, fogged again, but this time the words scrawled there said, "Say her name, or I'll wear yours instead." Ava couldn't breathe. She felt the world collapsing, like the attic again, the house again, the lie again, and in her chest something snapped. I remember, she whispered. The whispers paused. She stepped into the bathroom, placed her palm on the mirror. I remember what I did. I remember what I said. I remember leaving her there. Her eyes welled, her knees buckled. But I loved her, she said, voice cracking. I loved her more than anything. And if that means you take me now, then fine. Just leave her alone. Silence. Then the mirror cracked. Not shattered. Just one single fracture down the center. And the whisper came again, but not from the mirror. From the diary it said, "One more memory, then we end it." That night, Ava dreamed, not of ghosts, not of monsters. She dreamed of the day Emma was born. The hospital room. The first time she held her. The smell of her sister's hair. The way Emma laughed like the world was brand new. She woke up crying. And beside her, Tyler was already sitting up, pale, shaking. I saw something too, he said. She turned. I saw my brother. He swallowed. He died when I was 14. Drowned in the lake behind our house. I forgot so much of it. But now it's like it all came back in a rush. Like something forced me to remember. Ava looked down at the diary. It was closed again. But a single word was burned into the cover. Det. They left the motel before dawn. Didn't check out. Didn't look back as they drove. Ava knew one thing. This wasn't over. The house had been a beginning, not an ending. The real horror wasn't the place, it was what followed. Something that lived in cracks, in memory, in guilt, in grief. Something that latched onto pain and wore faces like masks. It didn't kill. It collected. People, emotions, remnants. And she had one more thing it wanted. The last piece of Emma's memory. What she had refused to face. What she had buried so deep. Even her nightmares hadn't touched it. She'd have to go back, not to the house, but to the one place where it all began. The lake. The lake. Doesn't forget Ava hadn't been back to the lake in 17 years. It was smaller than she remembered. Or maybe she was just bigger, older now, with the weight of time bending her perception. The trees still arched the same way, branches like crooked fingers. The dock creaked with the same moan as it had when she was 10. The water, still and black, reflected a sky that looked bruised even under daylight. She stepped out of the car. Tyler followed in silence. The diary tucked under his arm. Neither of them spoke. Not about the motel. Not about the whispering. Not about the memory Ava still hadn't said aloud. Because whatever this thing was, the presence, it wasn't just haunting places anymore. It was haunting truths. She walked slowly toward the dock. Her feet crunched over dead leaves, pine needles, forgotten beer cans from summers long gone. At the edge of the dock, she paused. This was where it had happened. Not where Emma had died, but where Ava had first lied. That was what this thing fed on. Not just grief. Guilt, buried, untreated, festering guilt. She knelt, touching the splintered wood. Tyler stood behind her, silent, and she spoke. Emma didn't drown by accident. The air stilled, the wind dropped. Even the birds in the trees fell silent. Ava kept her voice low, honest. She followed me down to the lake. I was mad at her. She'd broken my Walkman earlier that day. She was always in my stuff, always chasing me around, asking to play. I needed space, just 10 minutes to be alone. She swallowed hard. She begged me to let her come. I told her no, screamed at her, said she was annoying, said I hated her. Tyler's face twisted, but he said nothing. Ava's voice cracked. I didn't mean it, but she cried and I walked away. I left her on the dock, alone. A memory flickered, sharp and sudden. Emma's face, streaked with tears, framed by the sunset, her tiny arms crossed. She had said something Ava had forgotten until this very moment. If I disappear, will you miss me then? Ava gasped like she'd been slapped. She was gone when I came back. Her footprints led into the woods. That's what I told Mum and Dad, that she ran off. I left out the fight. I left out what I said. I left out that I walked away. The wind returned, faintly. Tyler stepped forward, voice quiet. Why? Ava looked up at him. Because I couldn't face that she left because of me, and because, if I admitted the truth, I'd have to admit I let her go. The water rippled slowly from the center. Something was rising, not fast, not violently, deliberately. A shape breached the surface, smooth, slick, glistening. It looked almost human, but the limbs were too long, the face featureless. Just a blank wet canvas. The wind grew colder, and then it spoke, though its mouth didn't move. Now you remember. Ava staggered back. Tyler stepped in front of her, but the thing didn't advance. It just stood there, waist deep in black water. You fed me, it said. With silence, with forgetting. Ava's mouth trembled. What are you? It tilted its head, not cruelly, almost curiously. I am what festers, what molds in corners. I am what children bury. I am the second look, the skipped heartbeat, the guilt you rocked to sleep for years. Its skin shimmered, and now it wore. Emma's face twisted hollow-eyed, lips sewn with whispering threads. I am what you forgot on purpose. Ava fell to her knees, tears spilled. Then take me. The lake fell silent, even the wind ceased. She repeated it, louder. Take me instead. But the thing only laughed. You don't understand. I already have. Behind them, the diary burst open in Tyler's hands. Its pages flipped violently, faster than any wind could manage, until it landed on the center spread. Words burned into the pages, ink smoking as if written with fire. She wasn't alone in the woods. He was there, watching, waiting. And you brought him back. Ava turned to Tyler. What does it mean? He looked pale, shaking. When Emma disappeared, she went into the woods, but not by herself. Something followed her in, or led her. Something that came from here. Ava shook her head. That's impossible. She wasn't gone long enough. Tyler interrupted. My brother said the same thing. She froze. He took a slow breath. That night, in the motel, when I saw my brother in the dream, he said someone was waiting for him at the bottom of the lake. And when he drowned, he saw its face. It told him it had more to collect. Ava felt ice crawl down her spine. Then what is it? Tyler looked at the thing in the water. I think it's not just Emma, and not just your guilt. He looked back at her. I think it's older than both of us, and it uses our memories to get in. The thing in the lake began to move toward the dock. The water didn't ripple. It didn't splash. It just followed him like the lake obeyed. Ava clutched Tyler's arm. What does it want? He stared. An anchor. Ava blinked. Tyler opened the diary again. Another page had filled itself. To stay, it needs something to bind to. A tether, a name, a grief with no closure. You gave it, Emma. Ava felt her chest tear open. No, I didn't, but she had. All those years refusing to remember, avoiding her birthday, skipping holidays, never talking about the lake, letting her parents bury Emma without even knowing the truth. She had given this thing a room in her memory, and it had made a home there. The figure stepped onto the dock. Its feet made no sound. Behind it, the lake turned still again. The face shifted, now wearing Ava's, then Tyler's, then Emma's. Make your choice, it said. Ava whispered. What choice? It pointed to the water. Forget again, and I stay, or remember everything, and I return what's mine. She looked at Tyler, and he gave a tiny nod. Whatever happened next, they'd face it. Together, she stepped forward. The dock creaked. The thing didn't stop her. She opened the diary, and she began to read out loud. Every page, every memory. The attic. The motel, the lake. The fight, the exact words she'd screamed at Emma, the guilt that had eaten her alive, the final moment she saw her sister's shoes vanish between the trees, and the moment she chose to lie. She spoke it all. Without skipping, without hiding. The diary burned in her hands, the ink rising like steam, but she didn't stop, even when her throat tore, even when blood trickled down her chin, and when she reached the final page, she said the word she'd never dared say. Emma, I'm sorry I left you. I'm sorry I didn't come sooner, and I will never forget you again. The lake exploded, not outward, inward. As if the world turned inside out. The figure screamed, a chorus of voices, hundreds layered atop each other. Then it collapsed, not into ash or bone, but into memories. Images burst from its form. Children. Teenagers. Mothers. Brothers. All the faces it had worn, all the grief it had consumed, they scattered into the wind. Gone. And from the center of the dock, where it had stood, something small was left behind, a tiny pair of red shoes. Ava collapsed. Sobbing. Tyler held her. And for the first time in 17 years, Ava didn't feel hollow. She felt light. They left the lake as the sun broke. The horizon. Ava didn't look back. She didn't need to. The weight was still there. The sadness, the love, the ache. But the thing that had fed on her forgetting, it was gone, not destroyed, but released. And now, all that remained was the truth. You brought it home. Ava didn't speak for the entire drive back. The diary was gone, burned to ash and memory, but she didn't need it anymore. The memories were inside her now, not distorted, not buried, just real. Tyler drove, silent, careful. His eyes flicked to her occasionally, like he was checking to see if she might vanish. They didn't say it, but both of them felt it. The lake had changed something, and maybe, just maybe, it had ended. But as the road curved back toward the town, Ava noticed something. They were being followed. It wasn't a car, not headlights, not tires, but a feeling, like something just out of sight. No matter how far they drove, it was still there. By the time they pulled into Ava's driveway, the world felt heavy again. Gray clouds covered the sky, even though the forecast had said clear all week. The trees lining the street leaned in slightly, as if listening. She stepped out of the car and felt her stomach twist. The front door of her house was open, just a crack, enough to say, I've been waiting. Tyler reached out to stop her. Wait, we don't know, but Ava was already moving. Inside, the air smelled wrong, not foul, just wrong. Like memories left too long in the dark. The living room was untouched, so was the kitchen. But when she got to the hallway leading to her childhood bedroom, the floor creaked the same way it had when she was 10. She pushed open the door, and there, sitting on her bed, was a little girl in red shoes. Emma. No longer 7, maybe 17. Or 20. Her face was familiar, and not. She smiled, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. Ava, she whispered. Ava backed away. You're gone. The girl tilted her head. Am I? Tyler stepped beside Ava, voice low. That's not her. It's what wore her. Emma laughed softly. I was her, and I was you, and I was every face in that book. You gave me names, you gave me grief. Her smile vanished and you brought me home. The hallway behind them slammed shut. All the lights in the house went out. Darkness poured like smoke from the corners of the room. Emma stood. Her eyes were pitch black, not hollow, just endless. Tyler shouted, pulling Ava behind him, but the girl didn't move forward. She just spoke. Measured. Double quotes. I was born from forgetting. You starved me, Ava. When you remembered, when you forgave, you cut me off. She stepped closer, but something else came with you. Something that never left. The lake. Ava's breath caught. No. The girl nodded. Double quotes. The truth came home with you. And so did he. A loud knock shook the front door. Then again. Then again. Boom. 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 The sound was bone deep, like something too large was pressing against the world, trying to come in. Tyler grabbed Ava's arm. We have to go now. But the house folded. Not literally, but the walls bent, stretched, like a dream melting at the edges. Ava felt her knees buckle. Why is it still here? I let go. I remembered everything. Emma stepped closer. You did, but Tyler didn't. Ava turned sharply. What he looked stunned. shaking his head. No, I did. I told you everything. But Emma, or the thing wearing her, laughed. Not about your brother. The room darkened further. A second figure stepped out from the shadows. A boy, soaking wet, bruised, eyes wide. Tyler's face drained of all color. No. The boy stepped forward. His twin. Dylan, dripping lake water onto the carpet. I waited, Dylan whispered. You left. Tyler shook his head violently. I didn't know. I thought you got out behind me. The ice broke. I reached. But you were gone. You never told anyone what you saw. Dylan said. You buried it. Emma's voice returned, cruel now. You let Ava think this was about her, but it's about both of you. She stepped back, as if offering them forward to something waiting. The house shook. Pictures fell from the walls. A long crack split down the center of the ceiling. And from above, from the attic, came a dragging sound. Something was coming down the stairs. Ava grabbed Tyler's hand. We have to do it again. What I did at the lake. Tyler's eyes flicked toward his brother's ghost. No, I can't. I can't say it. You have to. If I say it, he'll stay gone. Ava grabbed his shoulders. If you don't, it will never leave. We'll be stuck here forever. You know that. Tears filled his eyes. The dragging grew louder. The attic door began to creak open, and Tyler finally whispered. Broken. I was supposed to go back for him. A pause. He swallowed hard. The ice cracked. I got scared. I ran. I thought, if I told them I never saw him fall in, they'd forgive me. I didn't want to be the one who let him die. But I did. I left him, and he drowned calling my name. The dragging stopped. Ava held her breath. Then Tyler added, voice like splinters, I'm sorry, Dylan. I didn't forget you. I just couldn't bear to remember. The attic exploded open. But instead of something terrible stepping out, it was empty. Quiet. And then wind passed through the house. But not cold, not angry. Warm, like a door had been opened, somewhere deeper than any of them could see. Emma's form flickered. So did Dylan's. Then both looked at them one last time. Dylan whispered, now I can rest. And Emma, no longer warped, no longer twisted, said, me too. And they vanished. Not in a burst, not in ash. Just gone. Like breath into still air. The front door creaked open. The sun was shining. The sky was blue. Again Tyler collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. Ava sat beside him, holding his hand for the first time. There was no weight on her chest, no whispering, no fog. Just silence. Peaceful. They left the house an hour later. Never went back. The house was sold, then condemned, then torn down. Nothing ever grew on the property again, but nothing came back. Either no shadows, no footsteps, no memories with teeth, just silence. Ava never forgot again. Every year, she left a pair of red shoes by the lake, and Tyler, he kept a picture of Dylan by his bed, not as a warning, but as a promise, to remember always, because they both knew the truth now, and truth was the only thing that could ever keep it from coming back. The end.